This is a movie based on true story about a black guy who was kidnapped. He was taken into slavery for 12 years. During this time, he had to endure brutal torture. Every day all of them were treated like animals, until they were hanged from a tree. His friends also turned a blind eye, because everybody had to ensure their own survival. He had to use his legs to push body up, get some air to keep breathing. Slave Solomon is a violinist. Although he is not rich, he has a very happy family. Today 2 people came out to invite him perform. For their circus they claim can put on quite a beautiful show. They need somebody that can take care of the music. The 2 men take him out to dinner. They have a wonderful night with food and lots of drinks. Solomon, so much that the 2 men have to take him bed and put him to sleep. The next morning Solomon wakes up in a basement. He tries to understand what is going on, but his questions will soon be answered. He is met by 2 different men. They are very hostile. Solomon and asks them what is going on. He learns that has been sold to these men as a slave. He will be taken to the marketplace for trade. As brutal as it may sound, slaves used to be traded like mere products. Solomon tells the man he is a free man, but the men mock him. They tell him to bring them the papers that prove he is free. Solomon tries to move, but of course he can't. His hands are chained. The man decides to punish Solomon. He makes him kneel on the ground. He starts beating him up with a paddle. Solomon looks around the cell, but realizes there is nowhere to go. Soon he is taken to a basement along with some other slaves waiting to be sold. Solomon tells them he is a free man, asks for their help. The other slaves seem to believe that does not matter at all anymore, since he has been brought here. He is a slave. They also advise him to keep his mouth closed, not telling anyone that he is educated or knows how to read. The white masters do not like the slaves that are educated, and slave ends up being a dead slave. One of the slaves tries to react what's happening them, but he is stabbed by a white guy. The slaves are forced to dispose of him. The next morning the other slaves are taken to the marketplace by ship. Some of them are treated just like animals. Solomon waits on the line along with some other slaves. At some point a white merchant comes near them. He has messed things up, however there is no control over him. So he tells Solomon that his new name is Platt. The slaves are taken to a room where the white man is discussing with a buyer. This man's name is Ford. He buys Platt along with some other slaves. He also intends to buy a woman, but she wants her children to also be bought by the same owner so they can live together. However, the price is too much. Ford can't afford that much, so he only buys the woman. This is a cruel world. Mother has to leave her children behind at the farm. Ford is looking for a way to transfer a raft above the water. Platt helps him with that. He travels with the raft above water. Ford wants to reward Platt. Since he knows that Platt how to play the violin, he gives him one as a gift. That makes the farm's janitor hate Platt for earning Ford's favor. The next morning this janitor picks on Platt because he hates him, destroys his work. He tries to beat him up, but Platt steals his whip. He knocks him on the ground. He starts beating him up, but that means serious trouble for him. Later the janitor returns with the other janitors. They tie Platt up. They hang him on a tree. They intend to kill him. Platt is only saved when the farm's headmaster appears. He tells everybody to put Platt down. The slave belongs to Ford, and only he will decide what should happen to him. If they kill him, Ford will lose money. The men let Platt hang on the tree. He has to balance on his toes to keep himself alive. The people watch him suffer, but they can't do anything to help him. Some kids play on the farm behind him like there is nothing going on, which means this is everyday life for them. The slaves have to always comply with their master's orders. When Ford returns home, he sees Platt hanging. He helps him down, however it is not like he loves him much. The next day Platt is sold along with some other slaves to a new, cruel master. This guy is not very well in his brains from the moment slaves step foot in this new farm. They have to work long hours under the sun to collect cotton. That night their new master EPS gathers them to give them a speech. He wants to make sure everybody knows he is the boss. Later that night, he takes the slaves into his house for a party. He knows that Platt can play the violin. He has him play for them. While the slaves are dancing, EPS is really fond of a black young woman. He likes her, has a filthy relationship with this woman. He can do whatever he wants to do with her since she is a slave. She can't do anything. However, his wife notices it. She turns against the young black woman, throwing something on her face. From that day this young woman becomes her enemy. The next day Mrs. EPS wants Platt to go another farm to get something for her. While he runs through the forest, Platt sees some white men beating up two black men. The white men stop Platt. He asks him where he is going. They suspect escaping from his farm, or better stated, they like to believe he is escaping because they would love to harm him. This has been one of the darkest periods America, and one of the cruelest of them, that he belongs to EPS. So the man let him go on his way, while Platt leaves. The black men get hung behind him. That night the young black woman comes to Platt being injured both mentally and physically. She begs him to end her life because she can't endure this pain anymore. How sane can a person stay in a situation like this? However, Platt got mad at her. He thinks this is a brutal sin that no human should ever do. The next day EPS wants to lend his slave to the judge of town because he needs some more hands in order to finish with his work. When they have a moment to rest and eat something, Platt touches the juice coming out of a bunch berries. He wonders this is the kind of material he could use to write the slaves do what they have to do. When the season ends, they get started. On the way back, EPS waits for them. He makes sure once more that everybody knows he is the big boss. The next day Platt goes on to work in the fields again. This day he surprisingly meets a white man working with the slaves. This man is not a slave, but he has to work in the fields, make a living. Later at night this man introduces himself as Armsby. He helps Platt treat the wounds on his back. Earlier EPS beat him up pretty good with whip because he collects less cotton than usual. The white man narrates his own story. He used to be a janitor and farm, but beating people up was not his thing. Beating slaves was above his character. He could not tolerate being mean to people for nothing. That kind of life made him want to drown his pain by drinking alcohol, but that only took him down a downward spiral. At midnight night everybody has fallen asleep. PLA goes to see Armsby. He tells the man has earned some money from his work. He asks him for a favor. Platt wants to pay the man if he helps him send a letter in New York, where his family is located. Armsby is a free man. Nobody will ask him any questions. Armsby is willing to help Platt, but he fails on his mission, returns drunk, and Platt now has to burn the letter so nobody will find it. The next day Platt is forced to participate in a scene of misery at his angry the young black woman because he believes tried to escape. However, the girl explains that she only went to a house nearby in order to get some soap. Mrs. EPS is so jealous of her that she does not even allow her to have a bath. EPS is maniac. He does not believe the girl. Problem is he also a sadist. Ties the girl to the trunk of a tree. He makes Platt whip her. Platt starts whipping, but he can't hit her hard. EP sticks a pistol into his face. He threatens him to hit the girl harder if he wants to stay alive. Platt makes an attempt to hit her harder, but EPS takes the whip from his hands. He starts beating the girl until she collapses on the ground. Later on, the other slaves try to take care of the girl, who can't keep her tears back due to the pain she's experiencing. Platt can't take this anymore. He does not find any pleasure in anything anymore, including his violin. That is exactly why he breaks it into pieces. The next day, he meets a new friendly face. White professional builder has come to oversee the building of a new barn. Platt here's the man disagreeing with EPS on the issue of slavery. When the two of them are left alone, the white man tells him he is against slavery. He can't really comprehend how humans can do this to one another. Platt gives the man opportunity to prove himself. If he wants to help, he can deliver a letter to New York and help him retrieve the letters that prove he is a free man. As it seems, the man did what he promised to do. A few days later, a man named Parker has made the trip from New York and visits Say's farm with the sheriff. After proving that Platt is indeed a free man whose name Solomon Northup, Parker takes him away. EP has a hard time letting him go. He threatens to take them court, but Parker tells him they will make lose all of his money. Before he leaves, Solomon hugs the young black girl, but unfortunately there is nothing he can do to help her out. Finally, Solomon returns home in New York. He reunites with his family. After 12 long terrible years, one of his daughters has had a baby on her own. Now that he has joined them, they can all live free music together.